It's now 5 minutes after 7. This is Morning Express and welcome back. And well, this morning on State of the Nation, which is what we do on Thursday, we put our pulse on what is happening in the nation and find out whether we have a healthy heartbeat or not. And I'm sure many of us are aware that there has been school unrest, which seems to be popping up. This is not something new. It has happened previously, and in the last 6 months, we've had more than 20 schools razed to the ground by students rioting for one reason or the other. Sometimes the reasons we are given sound extremely flimsy for them to actually raise down a school. For instance, if we use the latest case of a school that was razed down, and this is a secondary school, and this was apparently because the students were stopped from watching a football match. Now, from the history we've got from Dismas Mukua, who is an alumni of the school and an old boy from the school, he mentioned that one of the things that was written in the dining room of that school is the fact that that was a training academy for football and maybe education was second. So was it just a matter of miscommunication? Was it a value system for the students that maybe has not been put in place? Because for those of us from the outside watching would wonder, why would you burn down a school just because you did not watch a football match? Or could it be miscommunication between the teachers and the students? Maybe had they sat down with the students and convinced them that it was necessary for them not to watch the school, or rather the football match, because of what was ahead of them, maybe it would have been a totally different story. Well, that's our discussion this morning. Would like to know, what is it that would resolve the school unrest? Let me first of all start with some of your feedback that is coming via Twitter, because we had asked this question earlier on, and we have quite a number of you that have mentioned what they think and feel is part of the solution. And let me see, we have a gentleman known as Gregory who says that I think it is time we reintroduce capital punishment, and this would help us, corporal punishment, sorry, not capital, corporal punishment, and this would help us reduce. Again, this is an argument that we had yesterday, and some people were saying those of us who grew up in the previous generation were caned, both by your parent and by the teacher. And we did not see all this happening. However, is that a solution? I don't know what your take is. I'll be reading your tweets as they come through. But let me start, go to introducing the panel that we have this morning to have that discussion. And I'll start with my immediate left, where we have Sifa. And Sifa is in college now, but finished last year. Finished fourth form?
Yes.
And good morning and good to have you, Sifa.
Thank you.
Welcome. And Sifa, of course, is going to be helping us understand possibly what the students think, because sometimes there's that disconnection between students and teachers. We have Margaret Nzao, who's a chaplain and also a teacher at Moi Girls in Nairobi. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome. And last but not least, we have Emmanuel Manyasa, who is an education expert. Good to have you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right. Let me start with Sifa. And let's look at this last incident that happened, where students literally burnt down a school because they were stopped from watching a football match. What do you take out of that? What do you think that's a good reason for them to bring down a school?
No, not really. But I don't think that's what led to it. There's probably issues that piled up that weren't addressed, and that was more of a trigger.
Okay, yeah. So you think the football match is probably just what they say, the hay that straw, the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
Literally, that was just a trigger that helped that come in.
Yeah.
All right, Margaret Nzao, what do you think of, what do you make of that particular incident?
Yeah, just as Sifa is saying, I think there is much to it. I think some things had piled up, so it was like a balloon which just burst. I think there was more to it.
More to it than we're just being told.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Maybe coming back to you, Sifa, in terms of the education system that we have, what are some of the pressures that students are possibly going through and feel they're misunderstood?
The education system is very limited to students with academic ability. Mm-hmm. You know, not all of us are gifted mm-hmm. academically. Mm-hmm. So for those other talents are not brought out as well as some of us would wish them to. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like in that case, the boys say the school was a football academy.
Right.
So when your talent is not treated with as much priority as your academics. Your academics are important. However, you feel limited. Those who are not as talented academically feel closed out.
Okay. Do you think that creates any amount of pressure within the students for them to get to a point where they're now communicating using other means like burning down schools?
Yes, when your issues are not addressed over a long period, you do tend to get frustrated at some point. I don't know about that extreme, but yes, it does.
It does. All right, let me come to you, Emmanuel Manyasa, and maybe just get your comments regarding what is going on in the unrest.
Thank you. First, I want us to understand that when you have a school with 500, 1,000 students, it's not possible that even 70% of them will be ramparting. So that is done by just a small group of students generally. And maybe it's wrong to conclude that any amount of pressure is responsible. I think there are other factors. We have had commissions before. We had the Wangai Commission, which investigated the unrest in schools, and it brought out factors that could cause that. Pressures of mock exams, and I remember in response to that, mock exams had been banned. And even last year when we had unrest in schools around July, we again had the CS then, Professor Kaimenyi, reintroduce that ban on mock exams and saying that this puts pressure on students and it makes them do things that they shouldn't be doing. But I think let's understand that arson is a crime. And is there a reason that justifies a crime? That is where we want us to begin.
Okay. All right, I'll come to that. Margaret, possibly fill us in, maybe from a point of experience. How do you as a school or administration communicate with the children or with the students?
Okay. We have, we have class meetings, whereby they have meetings on Tuesdays early in the morning, where they speak out their issues. We also have house meetings, different houses. We hold meetings so that they're able to speak whether they're having challenges, and then the house mistress is there, or if it is a class meeting, the class teacher is there so that they can communicate. We also have counseling sessions whereby they are also able to talk to the teacher counselor and they're able to communicate. And as a result, there is nothing which will, like they will do without us knowing. Because we always know when there is a problem, they will complain, and not always complain, they also compliment if there is something good we have done. And so that communication is always there because we have avenues for communication. Even in class, a teacher will just raise a point and the students will speak because they are free to speak. Yeah, so dialogue is very key. A school should always have avenues for dialogue. Okay,
there's two things here. You can have that avenue of dialogue where you give them an opportunity to speak, but you do not listen per se. You listen, but you don't, if you get what I'm saying.
Yes, it is possible.
You listen, but you don't actually do anything about it, because that can cause frustration.
Yes.
What mechanism is there after you've heard the grievances to ensure that they're dealt with? Whether it is one of, you could deal with it by saying yes or no. Where if it's even a no, is it communicated back to the student that this cannot work because of?
With the reason, yes, you communicate and the reason why. You can't just say no, because this is a different generation as we have had. It is not like our generation where a no used to be a no without a reason and without even asking. Even my child will ask me, why is it no? So with this generation, if I say no, I have to explain. Even in my class, I'll explain why I'm not accepting, why I'm not agreeing with them. And so when we have a situation whereby we have just like, no, it can't happen, and that's all, I think that's why sometimes they blow up. But as he has said, it is not always that they should actually blow up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Sifa, what are some of the challenges you'd say that possibly the administration, and by administration here I mean the Ministry of Education, including maybe possibly the school administration, possibly don't understand that the students are going through?
Okay. I wasn't in boarding school. However, I did begin in boarding school, though most of my high school was in day school. And in boarding school, there are certain challenges such as cold water showers, small things such as that. You see, in the low temperatures we've been experiencing recently, a cold shower still remains a cold shower. So something like that can frustrate, meals, undercooked meals. And the communication between the administration and students. In some schools it's present, in some it's not. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I just want to understand fully, because I don't know where it changed. I mean, previously we still had cold showers. That's not something new, and I'm sure even the temperatures dipped till now. So what changed? Is it that the generation we have today cannot bear these things, or what? Or is it because it's different from possibly what you have at home? So maybe you're expecting in school what you have at home.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons, though I wouldn't think it's a main reason. The reason is more of parenting then is not like parenting now, so not everyone understands, let's say, per se, the struggles and how to cope.
How to cope.
So we learn how to express ourselves and say what you feel, despite the effects of it, because not many people have been trained
to deal with that.
Yeah.
Emmanuel, let me come to you, and some of the reasons and where there possibly could be a communication disconnect is possibly the administration listening to the students and thinking these are very petty issues. For instance, she's just mentioned maybe cold water is an issue. Now, sometimes, well, they say that a need remains a need until it's met. To the student, that is a major issue. To the administration, maybe they think, oh, come on, we grew up with cold water. We even showered in rivers. What is this? You guys have showers.
I went to Sigalame High School, and we took a bath in the river from one third term to the time I finished school. And I can tell you, there was never a riot on the basis of that. We went to the river, and it was several kilometers from the school every day, religiously, to take bath. So I think that there is what is happening in schools, and that's why I started by saying it is a small group of students who end up tarnishing the name of the whole school. I can tell you for sure in that school that it is not everyone who was watching football. That there were students who were in prayer meetings, who don't even care about entertainment. That there were students who thought the coming end of term exam was more important to them than the football. So it was just a small group. So the issue that I think is causing these problems, and I want to insist on a small group, is that this society has glorified goons. And so there are a lot of people starting to hone their skills in that right from school. I'm saying this because I had a classmate who was doing this in school, who is still doing that now.
When you say doing this, what do you mean?
Violence, just being a violence merchant. He was doing this. He has continued that out of school. He did that in campus, and stayed in campus for 7 years, while the rest of us took 4 years.
4 years.
So I can tell you that because this society has glorified this kind of behavior, the young people emulating those already being glorified for having done this. And so they are trying to hone their skills.
Okay. And at this point, we'd like to open up the phone lines in case you'd like to participate in this conversation via telephone. Maybe you have a question. Maybe you'd like to weigh in with a comment. The phone lines are now displayed on your screens. Let us know. You can call, and we'll take your call and question, possibly to help us resolve the school unrest that we have. Is it miscommunication? Is it misunderstanding? Emmanuel says that there are some who possibly begin their violence in school and carry it on. So maybe, I don't know, if maybe it's ingrained in their DNA or something, I don't know. But how do we resolve this? Let me come to you, Margaret, as a teacher. And there's a saying, they say, monkey see, monkey do. And children learn more from what they see than what they hear. Could this be a reflection of what they're seeing in our society today that is just playing out in schools?
Yes, exactly. I was just thinking about it, and you know, it's like our children have seen defiance from the parents when they see our leaders marching on the streets and when defying rebellion. And you know, it just flows from the top. They are seeing their dads doing it, their mothers doing it. So when they come to school, they know what to do, to defy, to rebel. Also teachers, sometimes we are told the strike is illegal and we go on the streets. So I think it is in the society. It's something which they have seen in the society, and they are like, it can happen. Our parents are doing it, our teachers are doing it. So it might be the society. And also the parenting is also a problem. As a teacher for 27 years, I can attest to it that there's a problem with the parenting. The parents are either not there, or they are defeated to take care of their children and to discipline their children. And so they have delegated all this to the teachers. And the teacher has time to prepare, to teach, to cover the syllabus. And whereby I'm teaching a class of 50 students, I don't have time to mentor that child and to even discipline the child. Sometimes you ignore that child because you don't have the time. And as Emmanuel is saying, you find just a group of students who have just decided to rebel, or maybe they don't want to learn, or they have issues at home, and they'll just come and they start stirring up the school. Just a few of them.
Okay. All right, Sifa, I don't know if your school ever went into strike, and maybe not, but I'm sure you have friends and other colleagues and age mates who possibly you'd identify with how they think. And according to Emmanuel, he says that these are just a few people within the school that do that. However, they still influence, you know, in terms of the whole school is raised down. Do you think that is true? Do you agree that it's just a few elements, or is it generally a few elements that are brave enough to express what the rest feel?
I'll agree with both, actually. You know, high school, most people, that's where you go through your identity crisis. And so no one wants to stand out per se. Everybody wants to fit in. And so a few students tend to take advantage and take charge of the rest of the student body. So when the few students strike or cause unrest, it's viewed as the entire student body. But no one will come up and say, you know, we weren't all for this, or we weren't all,
We didn't
it was
all
just
agree with
this
what
few.
happened.
Yeah. But also at times, these same few are the ones who tend to bring out, because they're the only ones brave enough to air out some of the grievances that the students are having. And though there are better forums to air out our issues, when we see it on TV, you know, our school teachers striking, especially in public schools, every time they have issues, you see the grievances they have, and that they may view as important and others may not, is a student can easily say, it's the same case with me. There's issues like, for example, cold showers, which you may view as a minor thing. To me, it's a big issue. And since I see you dancing on TV and saying how you want your rights, you know, and insisting through such means, I also emulate according to what I've seen and do the same.
All right, we'll come to solutions, and Margaret, maybe I'd like to hear from you in regards to just the system that is used. You already mentioned that you have forums where students air their views, but is there a defined way of addressing some of those? For instance, now, she's mentioned it twice, cold showers, and I think, let me just read a tweet here that has come through, and somebody says, I woke up at 5 a.m., I ate githeri for lunch, dinner every day for 4 years. So of course, somebody also there looking at it and trying to understand, why is that an issue? How do you address that? How do you, as a school, make sure that that is taken care of, such that if the hot water is not going to be available, it is made clear to the student it will not be available because of several reasons?
Okay, cold water has not been a problem, but the other issues...
We'll take that as one,
yes, yes.
Which we may view as a very minor thing, but evidently to Sifa, it is not a minor thing.
But actually what I've seen our administration addressing that issues. They call the students and talk. Okay, the students might not agree but they hear that we have, okay, they know that we have heard and that we are concerned. We might not solve the problem of, for example, cold water, but they will be shown that when funds are available, we will provide the cold water, the hot water. So it's just a matter of showing them you are concerned, not to just like, it's okay as we did not bathe in cold water, in hot water. So we just need to show that we are concerned, okay? We also need to show them that the reason you came to this school is to learn. And after that, you'll be able to provide yourself with that
the hot water. You can go and get the hot water yourself.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a call from Joseph Wasula in Kakamega. Good morning, Joseph.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Okay, I'm Joseph. I'm calling from Kakamega.
Sorry?
Okay, I would like to discuss about that in schools.
Joseph, you could just speak up a little bit louder. I can hardly hear you.
Okay, I think the major problem that we discuss in this unrest in schools is the poor communication between the administration and the students.
Okay.
I think if we will have a good communication system like this, from the administration to the students, there will be no for like violence or destruction.
Okay. So for you think it's purely communication?
Yeah, communication is the major cause of this. Because a student will have like a problem, they can present it to the administration that it's probably that the administration will not address and they will not listen to them.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Joseph.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Emmanuel, do you think Joseph has a point there that it's purely communication?
There are several problems. Communication is part of it. I will agree. But secondly, a lot of student riots are actually brewed in teacher staff rooms. When the head teacher is high-handed and the other teachers start to talk bad about the school administration, students speak up. And the riot, therefore, is conducted by students. But actually, it is mooted in the staff room. Number three, we have riots being mooted in the villages. We were in a school in Migori a month ago. And prefects are saying the head teacher must go because he is not from this clan. Primarily, that is not a student issue. That is a neighboring community issue that is spilling into the school and threatening to cause violence in the school. And the DEO came around and the president of the students told him, students have said he must go, so he has to go.
Okay.
And this is now clan politics coming into the school and breeding violence in the school. So there are a number of issues actually that are involved, which I think we need to probe and isolate them.
All right, we'll come to the actual causes, because as per the standard yesterday, it gave 10 causes of school unrest, and we'll come to that. But let me come to you, Margaret, and there's an article I read yesterday from one Gabriel Oguda, and I want to bring in the responsibility, or where does the parent play a role in this? And he explains and articulates previously, and maybe just to draw our memories back, that the reason why he, for example, would not even consider going into a riot is because if he was called by the school that your child has been misbehaving, his dad would not even wait to hear what the issue is. He would come with a stick himself. Yes. Meaning he's already, in his mind, he already has decided that the child must be wrong. So in other words, I would look at it from an angle of supporting the school in terms of discipline. But now we are in a society whereby if you discipline a child, you're likely to face wrath from the parent. So what role do you think the parent has in all this?
The parents have played a negative role sometimes, because they are not working with us. They are not working with the schools. In fact, of late, I've been wondering why is that the parents are against the school always. They always seeing the faults of the school. And there's something I can remember. My mom told me when I joined school. She told me the day I'll be called because we have done something, I'll beat you in front of everyone in that school. And I feared that, and she could have done it. But of late, the parent will come and make noise to the teacher in front of the child. So I think the parents are
So
playing
they
a role.
disempower the parent.
Yes, exactly. So it's like they're not respecting the teacher, and the student can actually see my parent is not respecting this teacher. So how come the child is going to respect the teacher? It is not possible. So they are actually playing a role, and what I would want them to do is just to try and support the school. Yes, because in my sane mind, there is no way I can just punish a child for nothing. It is not easy. So when a child has been sent home because of an issue, the parent should actually come and listen, not to stand with the child that my child is. Actually, I've had some parents saying my child cannot do that. And as a teacher, I know that child has done it.
And
So-
the child is there listening.
Yes, exactly. So we have a generation of parents who are also not supporting us. Yes, and I
Okay.
think that is something which has also caused a problem.
Caused a problem. Sifa,
Yes.
what would your comments be in terms of the role of the parent?
Yeah, like I said earlier, not every parent raises their child
The same way.
the same way. And so every parent has their own view of what discipline should be like. So when you bring in all those students and all those parents to one environment, they tend to influence each other. And sadly, today, mostly, very few parents take time to discipline their children. And so we as students, whether or not we tell you, we do know the importance of discipline. So when we know we're not being disciplined at home, even though we know it's wrong, I won't feel pressured, to try and behave myself because I have an excuse.
Are there times students will take advantage knowing that if my dad or my mom comes, they're going to stand or side with me rather than the teacher?
Yeah.
They do?
Yes.
Okay. And how would you see that to be resolved? How is it something that the parents maybe need to be more aware of so that they'll know, which sides to take?
Parents definitely need to be careful how they behave and how they discipline their children, because it will reflect on the child. They also, even though a parent may disagree with a teacher, it's so important that it's not done in front of the student, because even we as students, even when we see teachers fighting or having a disagreement in front of us, whichever teacher won, we'll side with that teacher and tend to look down upon the other teacher because you stooped as low as arguing in front of us or showing us that you have your differences. Will definitely put you where you have.
How would you feel if your parent came and, or your guardian came and sided with the teacher against you?
Well, my parents was more of the one to come and discipline me.
Maybe
before.
that's why you're here today and you finished school. Okay,
Yeah.
so but how would you have felt if okay, but I guess for you then they would side with the teacher.
Yeah.
Okay, let me come to you, Bwana Ezekiel, in terms of the role of the teacher. Emmanuel, sorry.
The role of the parent or teacher.
The role of the parent, sorry.
Parent, I think a lot of, and especially parents in urban areas, are not parenting at all. They have taken the role of a sponsor. They pay school fees. They buy everything needed in school. They provide money for their children to do whatever they want to do with it, but they don't parent at all.
Okay.
And so that is a problem, because the child is in school. They're in school because the parent wants them in school. They don't know why they're in school. Some of them are actually causing riots deliberately because they want to be sent home. Being in school is a punishment for them. They actually want to be sent home.
But rather be at home.
Yes, and so parents have not played a very constructive role, I think. And that's why I feel, and maybe we'll come to this when we look at the solutions, we need to isolate every student unrest case and treat it individually, so we understand what were the causes, where was the problem, who are the characters involved, and if we isolate the characters involved, then we'll start to understand what role
everybody can play.
Everyone played in it, including parents.
Okay, let me come back to you, Sifa. And one of the causes given here is fear of examinations by students. What would your comments be that regarding the examination, the pressure that comes from generally just the education system that we currently have?
With the education system we have, if you don't have an A or minimum C+, but that's the lowest you can go, basically in society, in the eyes of society, you have done nothing. you're not worth the time or the attention. And so definitely when you know that society views you are gauged according to what you attain academically, you definitely feel the pressure of failing your exams. So if you know you haven't been working, you definitely find another.
So you'd agree that would be a cause in regards to they would rather cause mayhem than sit for the examination, especially when that examination is going to size you up in terms of whether you have been doing anything in school or you're a total flop.
Yeah, you know, also when you're sitting and talking with your friends and they've passed in their exams or they've been passing, and each and every time you've been giving excuses, at some point you run out, and so you need others. So, you know, like when a strike like this happens, you can easily say, oh, you know, our school striked, so we didn't do exams, we struggled to catch up. You know, you have a reason. So at least you look sort of good.
You didn't do the exam, so anyway, there's nothing to gauge you. Margaret, your comments on that, on the pressure from the education system and, you know, the kind of pressure from society based on just that grade.
Performance.
Performance.
Yeah, there is much pressure, not only to the child, but also to the teacher. Because, and actually it comes from the top, because the head of the school will be questioned if the school mean goes down. So what will happen, the head will push the teacher to work, and the teacher will push the child to work. So there is that pressure, so that the school can attain a mean grade. So you find that if I'm stressed as a teacher, I'm going to stress the child to work. We forget that these children are not all talented the same. There are those who are bright, there are those who are average, but we don't want to hear average. We want a mean grade of A, because that is what is required of me by the administration, and that is what is required of the school by our employers. So you find there's that pressure. It is passed down. It is a problem, and I think it's the system, because during our time, I didn't see that pressure, but we used to pass. So we need to identify that we have children who are not A material, but they are gifted in other areas. I wish we could identify that, and so that this teacher will not be seen like I'm not working because my mean grade was a B. And that teacher who had a mean grade of an A worked so hard. It differs also with the subjects. We have the compulsory subjects, which is a must, they get an A, and it is not possible always. So there is pressure in our education system. Okay,
let me take a call from Joshua Okoth in Umoja. Good morning, Joshua. Joshua Okoth in Umoja, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, sir, go right ahead.
Now, I really don't agree with most of the things that are being tabled in the discussion today morning.
Okay.
Because personally, I was in a school whereby there were so many strikes. It was Ambira High School in Nyanza, Ugenya. Now, I understand from my own personal view that there are different students in school, and they all have different ideologies about ways they are supposed to be handled. So, teachers or the head in the schools don't really understand whatever things that go on in their minds, and they feel that like most of the issues that they have aren't always satisfied to their expectations.
So what, Joshua, maybe just so that we keep it short, what do you think is the cause for the unrest then, since you're saying that you disagree with what we're saying?
There can never be a single cause. In a community, everybody has an issue, and they are all different. So in the school as they are, there are some, according to the places they come from, like, let's say the government itself, the system itself should channel all the resources they have towards the attainment of betterment of the students' welfare.
Okay.
But it's not always one reason. There are so many reasons therein.
Okay,
Some might be exams, and others might be disgruntlement with teachers and so on.
All right, Joshua, so I release you. Solutions, now that there are many, there are different challenges. What are the solutions? What do you think is the solution? Dialogue?
Dialogue, you see, dialogue is just a pathway to the solution. Like,
okay.
After dialogue, what course do the implementations take? As in, people talk, but there is nothing being done.
Nothing done.
Yeah, if you change the system, if you change the system and implement whatever ideas you've dialogued on,
Okay.
it's better that way.
All right. Thank you very much, Joshua. Let's also take a call from Kibet Kipsang in El Damaravin. Kibet Kipsang, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Yes, go right ahead.
I would like to give my contribution
Go right ahead.
and also to say hi to my friend there, Emmanuel.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think the issue is really not that simple, as Manyasa is putting there. Yes, there might be few groups of students who influence others. But it's true, according to what Sifa is saying, there are small minor groups, small minor teams, called the minor teams, like those cold showers, blah, 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 which these small group of hooligans might be using to influence these other students who knows what they are there to do, to drive their agenda and persuade them to join their agenda.
Okay.
So my thinking is, I think communication is really important in this issue. You see, teacher communication with students.
It's crucial.
And also, we are not going to leave the Ministry of Education out of this, because they have to play a big role. As you see, there are sometimes a relationship between teacher and the principal is not good. They might be knowing such a thing, because others, teachers might be influencing these students to use such a small thing like football and banners pulled down in a demo saying we don't want this principal.
Okay.
So I think communication is really...
Communication is key.
Yeah, it's a key thing.
Thank you, Kibet Kipsang from El Damaravin. Let's take a call from Julius Njoroge in Mombasa. Good morning, Julius.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Well, my contribution is I concur 100% with the panel
Okay.
and support the fact that poor parenting has really contributed immensely towards this. And why I'm saying so, I have been a witness to some of the parents when they are called to schools to come and talk it out as far as the indiscipline of their children are concerned. You find somebody standing up, a lady, a mother, standing up mid the meeting and asks, are you through with your backing? Come on, backing. And then tells the student, twende zetu nyumbani, because my son cannot do that. I have also witnessed a parent, a father, coming to school also and saying the son cannot do whatever the teachers are claiming. And in the process, when the father is asked, how does your boy behave at home? He says, it's only small mistakes. Like when he is sent by the mother, he refuses, and when the mother reprimands him, he answers back. You see, the impression created is that son cannot be controlled by women, cannot be controlled by ladies. Now, how do you expect such a boy to behave when he is in a school where either the principal is a lady or a good number of the teachers are ladies? So, poor parenting has really contributed towards the mess that we are seeing today.
Thank you very
much. We wish to blame it on television, where we see the teachers rioting, we see the politicians trying to pull down gates and all that. The buck squarely stops to a large extent with
the parents.
Parenting.
All right.
Nikiwa moja wa wazazi pia.
Thank you, Julius. Are you a teacher by any chance?
I'm not, but I'm a parent and a strict one.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, Julius, and thank you for calling. And maybe just on the backdrop of what most of them are saying, two things stand out: communication and the fact that there's a disconnect between the administration and the students. But let's look at, we mentioned earlier that maybe this is just a small reflection of what the students are seeing happening in the country. I mean, not too long ago we had the teachers on strike, literally lying down on the streets on tarmac and, doing things which many of us would not do on a normal day. Let's look at our political terrain. Again, the same thing happening. And the stopgap seems to be a committee, or at least a group of people that represent the rest. Is it time, and I'll start with you, Emmanuel, is it time maybe we looked at schools forming a committee of sorts that is made up of students that literally engages with the authorities to ensure that students' needs are taken care of?
I think that is what government has tried to do when they said prefects will not be appointed by the administration. Prefects will be elected by students.
By students.
So that they are independent of administration control and they represent the views of the students. So if those they elect don't end up communicating their needs to the administration, that is another issue.
It's a failure now on their part.
But I think to that extent the government has tried to create an independent voice coming from students to the administration. So that I think can be addressed. Number two, I think the issue of administration of schools is an issue. You have seen the case where teachers are now the ones going to court for banning a dormitory.
Yes, we have several teachers who are now on the list.
Yeah. Why have they burnt down the dormitory? Because they wanted, there's a dispute between the principal and the deputy. They think the deputy is from their clan or community, he should stay and the head teacher should go. Those are the issues I said seep down into the student body and cause the riots, which are not really championing the students' cause. Number three, I think the issue of the pressure of the system on students is an issue that we see it. I taught in the university for 11 years, and the riskiest time was a week to exam. That is the time those who are unprepared will very easily cause a problem so that exams can delay. And so pressure of exam is a genuine cause. And I think our schools are churning out exams. Students open today and tomorrow they sit an exam, and then every month they're sitting exams. We need to review that because they are not in school to be tested. They're in school to learn. There has to be time for them to learn. Rather than continuous testing and testing and testing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Margaret, let me come to you. And one of the ideas that had been floated previously, and this is of course based on the fact that many of us grew up in an age where we were caned, but that was removed. And many might argue that this is purely just indiscipline. Of course, like our dear caller there, Julius, has mentioned, we have parents who will side with the child. We already talked about that. But in regards to caning, would that be possibly a way to try and instill discipline?
Okay, it used to be, but I think we misused it. We abused as teachers because a teacher would cane a child in anger and hurt the child. If it is done there's a way it should be done. Like it could be the principal is supposed to do the caning, not just anybody. I think caning
But the principal could also be angry. And he might be angry, or she might be angry out of their own issues. And bring it up on the child.
Caning used to work, but I don't think it is the only solution because we saw...
But do you think it could be part of a solution?
Yes, it could be part of the solution. Because, yes.
All right. Teacher says that could be part of a solution. Emmanuel, I see you shaking your head.
I honestly don't agree with that. Let us reflect and remember that student unrest has not begun today. When Changuli happened, there was caning in schools. When St. Kizito happened earlier, there was caning. The school I went to was holding the record of the worst strike ever in the country until St. Kizito, and it had happened in 1974, where policemen and students were killed in that riot. And so I think that how we discipline people it's a matter of what do you want to achieve after the discipline. And for me, maybe caning is not
it's not a way to go. Sifa, what do you think of caning?
I think it's more of too little, too late. You can't start teaching an old dog new tricks. Yes.
These would be young dogs, so to speak.
In terms of discipline, there's a specific age where you can instill something in a child through physical discipline, but there's an age where you just can't if you haven't done it, unless you resort to,
Okay, so you don't think that would be something that would work?
Not on high school students, unless you start earlier.
Okay.
Because when we look at the Bible, does it say, spare the rod
and spoil the child? Okay.
I think there's a place for caning. There should be, if it was possible. And in high school, the children are not too old to be molded. They can still be molded, even by caning.
So a cane can still mold them even in that...
Yes.
Okay. Emmanuel?
The people I saw being caned in our school, were almost the same ones, and they were caned throughout our school time. And they didn't fare better.
It did not make any difference.
At the end of the 4 years, they didn't fare
Okay,
better.
so what forms of discipline then would work? Because transferring a child from one school to another evidently is not the way to go.
In fact, I think they should not even be allowed to transfer unless there is genuine concern about maybe victimization that the child is facing in school, because that is also happening. We do research on learning, so we go to schools and we speak to many stakeholders. And we have had cases where there is a genuine cause of concern in terms of management of the school. And when a parent voices this in a parents' meeting, their child is victimized in the school. So unless there is such a case, I don't really support moving children from school to school, because it disorients them and at the end of the day doesn't help them.
Okay.
But I think, one, we need to start this from the household, that you are told this is right, this is wrong, and this is why it is right, and this is why it is wrong. Madam mentioned that earlier. It is important because we have, as a society, moved from the generation where you are told you can do this, you can't do this, and there's no explanation. So we need to start that dialogue in the household with children when they're young. Teachers need to reinforce this. To make children understand that it is wrong for you to do this, it is wrong. I was called to a school where students were going on rampage because they wanted a school bus. And I spoke to them and I told them, you are the most foolish human beings I've seen on earth. You are in Form 4, you want your parent to go sell a cow and bring money to this
for a school bus you'll not use.
For a school bus that you're never going to use. It will be bought.
It beats logic.
So they need to understand that dialogue.
We need to wind up because of time. Let me come to you, Margaret. Possibly give me in just less than a minute, what do you think are the solutions for us to have this unrest?
Okay, first and foremost, counseling is required for the child, for the teacher, and for the parent. Actually, parents are the ones who need counseling the
more than the students.
More than the students. Because I'm seeing it all rotates around the parent. So we need a lot of counseling in schools. And we also need a spiritual welfare in the school, whereby they are taught the fear of God. Because when a child fears God, there are some things they will not do. And as somebody said last night, I was watching, drugs are also rampant in school. And they are also causing this because a child in his normal mind will not touch a school, like what we have seen. So in most cases, you find there are also drugs involved. So there's a lot of, we need a lot of spiritual matters are being addressed in schools, whereby the children are also taught the word of God and the fear of God.
All right, Sifa, solutions from a student's perspective.
The main thing we want as students is just to feel heard and cared for. When a student feels like they're important, even at home, they wouldn't feel the need to be seen through ways such as striking.
Not call for attention in such ways.
So counseling, like she said, and patience, because it doesn't happen as quickly as you'd hope. But if you are patient, if you actually listen to a student, because a lot of people say we call forums and we listen to the students, but you can tell when you're being listened to and when it's just for protocol's sake. So when we actually feel like we're being listened to, I feel that will help.
That would help.
Yeah.
Okay, Emmanuel, solutions, and again, the fact that you're dealing with very intelligent students, they can tell when you're just creating a forum for the sake of, getting that done.
People know when they are listened to and when they are speaking for the sake of speaking. So they need to be listened to, I agree, totally. Number two, I think, now for the ministry. We have had commissions formed to probe student unrest across the board and come up with general recommendations saying there is devil worship in schools, there is all manner of things in schools. I think starting now, let us isolate every school unrest case and address it individually.
Deal with them individually.
So that we know exactly what were the causes, who are the characters, what role did each play, and we respond to that. Like we have had these schools that have been banned, let us know what was the role of the community, what was the role of the students, what was the role of the school administration in causing this. Let us respond to it individually, and let us make the response comprehensive and known to everyone, so that if there are children who are smoking bang in school, let that come out, that these specific individuals
It's
were
drug
involved and
related.
they
Yeah.
did this because of this.
Okay.
Because the generic recommendations are not helping.
All right. Thank you very much, Emmanuel Manyasa, who is an education expert. We also have Margaret Nzau, who's a chaplain and a teacher of Moi Girls in Nairobi. Thank you. And last but not least, Sifa, who is in college right now but left fourth form last year. Thank you very much for helping us have that discussion and enlightening us on what possibly might help us resolve the school unrest. Just to look at some of your comments that are coming through via Twitter, we have Sigalame High School, who says students and teachers, this is from the school, it says students and teachers need to find a better way of solving grievances. We also have Paul Otieno, who says schools must create an environment conducive to dialogue and consensus. Gone are the days teachers know it all. We have Festus Momo, who says discipline begins at home as charity begins at home. Parents should play their part and their role too. Let me see if I can read one or two more. We have Lord Sugar, who says caning, and even more caning. We were caned and look how it turned out great. Not all learners are morally corrupt. They should be dealt with individually to send a signal to the rest. I'm sorry I cannot read all your comments, but thank you very much for participating and contributing to the discussion this morning. We'll take a short break, then we'll be right back with some news updates, but also on Tech Central today. Digital marketing and advertising is the way to go. Find out from a company that is doing that and some platforms that they have set up where you can take advantage of the digital era. That's all coming up right here on Morning Express.